ahead and open up to Hebrews chapter 13. And last week we left off, I believe, in verse 5. And, we've been seeing in chapter 13 here really, a lot of application. So we've been slowing down this last, 5-6 weeks here, talking about and looking at the application and what does this really look like in our lives. And, speaking of brotherly love and how we're to love one another, right? How we're to show hospitality to strangers, how we're to relate to prisoners, when they're in prison. And so all the things that come along with being brothers and sisters in Christ and loving one another as we're called to do, and those who are mistreated, and remember honoring marriage. And so we've seen many different kind of topical, short studies, if you will, and application in that to honor marriage, and that God will judge those who are sexually immoral, and all those things that He says to not be doing, and keeping your life free. Remember, from the love of money. We talked about that last week, and so maybe just somebody can give us a blurb on that to just remember what it was we talked about in verse 4 and 5 last week on what is so dangerous about that. All right, what is how are we not supposed to act according to God's word here with money? I mean, we do need money. Yes, money is beneficial in our lives. Yes.
Yep.
So how did we talk about reconciling this need, in our lives with what the Word of God says about it?
Well, I think the love of money eventually turns to greed, as far as that love overtakes you, and then it's all you think about, because it's so easy to get hooked on. What I'm saying, not that it's a sinful nature, but like you said, we need the money. So if I get more and I get more and I do this, then the way that you think, you start looking at people different. So the brotherly love can be now more like, well, maybe I could take advantage of this guy, or what I'm saying, is instead of having the gospel, in my opinion, instead of having the gospel truth and sharing the gospel with people, that love, I mean, it says it a couple of times in the Bible that it's the root of all evil is the love. It's not the money. You need the money, but it just changes your whole, and it's like any addiction. It grows bigger and bigger and bigger, and then once in a while, I have lots of friends of mine that I'm not gonna say it's too late, but you talk to them, and the minute they bring up, well, what are you investing in? What are you doing? It's like, hey man, let's just have a regular conversation without money, a good down, and I just feel that it's it could really grow on you and take you off the path.
Well, it takes your focus off of God, and that's what it's all about, right?
Yep.
Good.
To edify and glorify God, and when you're putting that trust in money to take care of the resources that you feel you quote-unquote need, right? Like that, because you're focusing to have that resource to be able to get whatever it is you need, then it takes your focus off of God, takes that fear. It instills the fear into you that God's not going to provide, because
Exactly.
Because you have to have these resources in order to get yourself through whatever it is that you need or want or have to go through. So if that makes sense, I guess.
I think it's very well said. Talking about, like you said, it's the desire and the love and the things of misprioritizing things, right? And so we talked about that last week, kind of the covetousness versus contentment. It's kind of what I've titled this segment, is to be content. And then you mentioned fear, I think segues perfectly into verse 6. As we get to verse 6 here, he says, the Lord is my helper, I will not be afraid. Right? What can man do to me? And we see these types of words reflected in some of David's writings. If you guys, let's turn back to Psalm 56, and we can see that a little bit. And that fear that comes upon us if we're not really trusting in the Lord, right? We're more prone to fear and anxiety and those types of things.
Psalm 56.
Mm-hmm.
What do you got up there?
Psalm 56, verse 3 and 4. Jay, would you mind getting that for us?
Whenever I am afraid, I will trust in you. In God, I will praise his word. In God I have put my trust. I will not fear. What can flesh do to me?
Yeah, amen. Well said there, and written by the Holy Spirit, obviously, and through David. And I will not be afraid because my trust is in Him. Skip forward to Psalm 118.
Well, that's my favorite.
Oh yeah.
Well, and let me see if it's that one, because I have, when we moved down here from Miami, remember, I was doing an 8-ball a day for 27 years. For the last 11 years, 12 years of my life, I was doing an 8-ball a day. And moved down here, and I would shake my fist at God because, I'm down here, now what, And I think there's a psalm that I would read every day for 6 months. It's amazing. It's see?
Yeah. And giving thanks to the Lord. That's what most of this Psalm 118 is about. Giving thanks to the Lord because His mercy endures forever. Right? His steadfast love endures forever. It says that multiple times throughout. And looking at verse 6, it says, "The Lord is on my side, I will not fear. What can man do to me?"
That's not it. It was 18. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. So on the heels now of what we spoke about last week and what we saw in verse 5 there, how do we put this together? This not having a love for money and being content with what you have because the Lord is my helper and I will not be afraid. Don't these things go hand in hand, don't they? What does that look like?
Well, being content is not striving to over exceed what you need for your daily life.
Yeah.
You can, your needs are met through Christ. Your wants are only met if it's God's will.
Okay.
Satisfied.
Okay. Yeah.
And it's really not our money, it's God's money.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We're
Good.
stewards over it.
Good.
We are.
Yeah. I was talking about that yesterday. Stewardship. Yeah. A little bit.
Actually, nothing's ours. Nothing can be ours because we're so temporal.
Yeah.
So it's silly saying this is my bottle of water and hold on to it. It's like
Yeah.
crazy.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. And we're called to be, God's word calls us to be wise stewards, right? To be good stewards of the things that He's entrusted us to. And that's the point, right? He's entrusted us to, the resources He's given us, to, the family, the wife and family members He's given us, to everything that the talents, the abilities, the giftedness, everything that He's given us is His and is from Him, right? James 1:17, every good perfect gift comes from the Lord. Yes, that's if we have the proper perspective, it's nothing is mine. I don't hold on to it tight-fisted because it's the Lord's and I'm a steward of it. And so that's what I hear you guys saying, is that if we have that type of perspective, contentment comes, right? And with contentment, and that's really the opposite again of covetousness, the opposite of greed and desiring and doing those things, that we will be content, that we'll have peace and not anxiety, right, and fear and other things that can come if we're not trusting in God, but we're trusting in our own abilities and our own power and those types of things. So we don't find contentment, here's what we're saying, or joy or peace, right, or any of these things in money or anything that money can buy.
To take it one more notch, God doesn't need it. So He's giving, this is the way I feel it, He's giving us the opportunity to you know what I'm saying? God doesn't need nothing that we have. God is almighty.
Sure.
He gives us the opportunity, the gift to actually, strive and have that in our hearts, we try to follow God. I don't know if it's not a test or anything, it's just the way that God planned it, but He doesn't need whatever we have, but we have the opportunity to grow into that, and I think that's amazing.
Yep. Good. I skipped forward to this last week. I got another one in a minute, but I thought this was good. Money can buy the good life, but it can't buy eternal life, right? So that kind of goes along with what Jesus said about storing up your treasure, right? Somebody remind me, what does he say about that?
Neither moth
The moth will eat it.
and not see it.
Yeah, so
Rust.
not to store it up here,
Yeah.
all right, to store it up in heaven where that doesn't happen. And so, because all this that we're talking about, we talked about it a little bit last week, but now I just see us going right that way again because it's we're being guided that way by the text and by the Spirit. Everything you guys are talking about is the intent, right? We talked about that again last week, because with everything you guys are talking about, what does it say about, in that context, what does it say about our treasure? Remember it says, for where your treasure is,
Heart.
there your heart will be also, right? And so that's where I think we're really hitting home on this stuff. Is it's about the heart, it's about the intention, the motives, and that comes out of a heart that's been changed, right? Because you look at the world. What was your heart like before you were changed, and what does the heart of an unsaved person look like? What do their desires look like? How do they define contentment? What does that look like?
Greed, adultery, whatever, slander, right? All that. Greed is probably the most heaviest one, because once you fall into that, it's me,
Even after Christ, a lot of that stuff can stick around.
Oh yeah,
It's definitely a journey.
yeah. That's
Unraveling of self.
good. That's the battlefield, right? The internal battlefield.
Yeah.
Yeah, that we're struggling with, and like you said, the unraveling of that, or that we've got to be retrained, right? We've got to unlearn things that we've learned, and things that have been entrenched in us and put in us, by the world and the upbringings in it, right?
Really, like generational curses.
Yep.
And then be retrained by what the Word of God says, right? And so Paul talks about that in Romans 12, being transformed by the renewing of your minds. And remember back to Ezekiel 36, that it is God who has removed the heart of stone from you and given you a heart of flesh and written His law on it, and this new life that we've been given, this regeneration, conversion, whatever you want to call it, this change that has happened in us, when we believe in the gospel. It changes us. And so, to your point, Jordan, it's not like a light switch, right? It's not like you flick the switch and boom, I'm perfect.
It feels that way.
No, you
Like a
flick
couple
the switch.
months.
You
Yeah.
flick the switch and
Reality
the
sets in.
Yeah.
you flick the switch and the breaker goes off. That's the first thing that happens.
And I think a lot of that too, at least it was for me, is if you're not a believer, then Satan's got you. And it's whenever you turn from him and you find Christ, you believe in Christ, then you're on that side of the fence. But Satan's right there, he's close, and he's gonna start trying to pull you back in and
Excuse me.
and he does that sometimes without even you knowing it, and then you have to check yourself, often, daily,
Sure.
and then the money thing, that's the easiest way, it's the easiest way that he can, tempt us.
Okay.
Last week we talked about how the world is telling us something completely different
Yep.
about just money.
Yeah.
The climb to get it versus just being content in
Yeah.
what has you, what He's provided you with.
And then in the verse before that, we talked about how the world is lying to us about sex and marriage and defining that. It's just on and on and on. Before that, we talked about how the world is lying to us about what love is and what real love is. And yeah, so that's right. Having to unlearn the things that we learned right, in the world, and relearn and have the Holy Spirit reshape our minds according to the truth, which can only be revealed to us by God and His Word. Yeah, good. And so it definitely is a process, right, that we go through, and it takes some time. And even as you said that, made me think of 2 Corinthians 4, and starting in verse 4, he says, in their case, talking about unbelievers, the God of this world has blinded the minds of the unbelievers to keep them from seeing the light of the gospel of the glory of Christ, who is the image of God. For what we proclaim is not ourselves, but Jesus Christ as Lord, with ourselves as your servants for Jesus' sake. For God, who said, let the light shine out of the darkness, has shown in our hearts to give the light of the knowledge of the glory of God in the face of Jesus Christ. That's it. We were blinded by the world, and all those that we encounter that are not believers tomorrow that we encounter, they're being blinded, from the truth, and they are living in darkness. And so, may the Lord be gracious as we go out and try to love on them and share the gospel with them. And, as Peter says, draw them out of the darkness and into your marvelous light, as He has done for us. So you guys are right. It's night and day difference. How do you define this? And it's two total different worldviews that clash here that we're talking about. And the divide is just getting deeper and deeper. The divide is wider and wider, broader and broader, it seems, every day. And so we got to continue to fight the good fight, and allow the Lord's word to shape us and mold us. So we shouldn't be then relying on money and all the other things that we're talking about for contentment that like you said, the world will tell us, right, where to find those things. And that's why the world has so many answers and so many options that we used to look for, right, and that people around us are looking for, that we even prayed for here tonight, that they're looking for hope. They're looking for peace. They're looking for contentment. They're looking for answers. And they can't find it because it's only found in one place.
Hey Google.
Yeah, yeah.
Like really.
Yeah. Yeah. And so it's only found in one place. And you guys, we know where it's found. Yeah. Turn over to Philippians chapter 4. Because we should be content and comforted, knowing, like he says here in verse 6 of Hebrews 13, that God is with us, right? He is with us, and so that is what should, comfort us. That's where we should find our contentment. Let's go to Philippians 4 and verse 10 to 13. If you're there, Dave, would you mind picking that one up, brother?
Yep. I rejoiced in the Lord greatly that now at length you have revived your concern for me. You were indeed concerned for me, but you had no opportunity. Not that I am speaking of being in need, for I have learned in whatever situation I am in to be content.
Let me pause there 1 second. I'm sorry. I should have set up context here of Philippians. Who's our author of this epistle? Paul. Okay. Somebody remind us of the situation he found himself in as he wrote this letter. What was the context there? Where was he at that time? Who knows?
He was right in Philippi.
Huh?
He was right in Philippi, but it wasn't in
Right. Where was he when he was writing this?
Corinth.
But specifically, he was in the house arrest, right? He was in prison. So he's in prison, first time in Rome, in the house arrest situation. He's writing this now, and that's what he's meaning here when he says, that you have concern for me, but haven't had the opportunity, to a lot of them maybe to come and see him, though some have. So remembering now, he's in a situation where he's being treated not well. Certainly he's not like in a dungeon or anything. He was allowed some liberties. But it's because of false accusations of the Jews that he's in this time that Rome is inquiring him and going to put him to trial. And so that's the context now. I want you to understand more about what he's saying here. Okay, so if you don't mind maybe picking up back at verse 11 again,
Sure.
please, Dave, and go to 13.
Not that I am speaking of being in need, for I have learned that in whatever situation I am, to be content. I know how to be brought low. I know how to abound. And in any and every circumstance, I have learned the secret of facing plenty and hunger, abundance and need. I can do all things through him who strengthens me.
Praise the Lord. And so I interrupted to set that stage a little bit because this is one of those verses that is taken out of context across even the church,
So much.
but certainly the world, but definitely in the church. And, you know, basketball players write it on their shoes and all that stuff's, you know, whatever. But it's not that I can do all things through Christ, meaning I can slam dunk because Christ strengthens me. What Paul's context here is what? What did that just say to us? What is the context of this?
I can tolerate, I can handle, I can survive all things.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've been, I've had plenty and I've had no food. I've been hungry and I've had more than I need. I've had abundance and I've had need where I haven't had enough. You know, I've abounded in things and been needing in things. And so he's saying, I've been across the gamut, right? And a lot of you guys know that if you know Paul's journey and, you know, look at, I think it's 2 Corinthians 12 that has his list of, you know, being shipwrecked and beaten and all the things that he went through, suffering for the name of Christ. You know, he went through the gamut of all of it. And he's saying, I can do all of it because Christ is with me. And what you guys were speaking of earlier, that the contentment that I have, the joy that I have, the peace that I have, all those things can't be taken away. What can man do to me? He can't take that from me because, and that's where we're at again in Hebrews, because the Lord is my helper, I will not fear. What can man do to me?
That's a gift. It's like one of the greatest gifts you can have.
It is the greatest.
That realization, that simple
Right.
fact.
Yeah. And but as you say that, Jordan, I'm conflicted in myself to say, isn't it so simple? But yet then I find myself going like, then why is it so hard for me?
Right.
Because
Right.
you had to unlearn everything and relearn everything and being humbled, that God slows you down so you can study the word 100%, and then you finally get to the point where you said, ain't it great? And I call it the I got it moment. I got it. I figured it out.
And yet,
Just the awareness
Yeah. And everything.
to see it in daily life.
Yeah.
Yes.
well, that's the struggle, I think,
Yeah.
because I think I do got it. I've had the aha moment of, yep, I get this and understand this, but I still in my day-to-day life struggle with it and don't get it and don't live. I don't live according to it.
But I think Paul's like punctuating it. Every time you punctuate, it's like punctuation. I'm content, even though I've got nothing. I'm content, even though I've got everything.
Yeah.
I'm content, even though you beat me. I'm content, even though you tickle me. And it's
Yeah.
it always starts with being content.
Tickle, tickle.
Yeah, but it's amazing.
Yeah.
You know, it's like
Yeah.
That doesn't change in him.
I'm
Everything else is changing, but that aspect of I'm content,
right.
you know, going through all that, it's a good
Well, I
point.
struggle with that so much, and with guilt too, because my brother died of a brain aneurysm, you know, and then my sister died, and then I died about 3 days after my sister. But then I didn't die properly. I did, you know, I was okay, and I'm not even content about that.
Yeah.
You know, I struggle so much with it because they were both highly successful, super smart people. I'm a dumb old carpenter. But why am I still here? You know, it's
Yeah.
my problem,
Wow.
but it's the
Well, I can tell you, it's not your problem. It's our blessing. It's you know, you're here because God wants you to still be here, and we're grateful.
yeah.
Amen, brother.
It'd be much better if they were here and not me because, you know, that's my crossroads.
Sure, but Pete, in that, you know, remember, because you know a lot of us can feel that same thing that you're voicing there, but we got to remember again, going back to what Brian reminded us earlier of the gospel truth, that God is the one who orchestrated
Yeah.
all these things exactly how He wants them to be. And there's things in my life that I look at the same way you're kind of
Yeah.
voicing right now, and we got to take peace and comfort knowing that, you know what, God says, let's go look at it actually. Let's go to Romans 8. God says He's the one, you know, who's working all these things out exactly to how He planned. You know, it wasn't any surprise to Him, you know, that your sister had the aneurysm and then you did, and you're still here. You know, He in fact had ordained for that to happen. And so looking at Romans 8, maybe we can get some answer, and some comfort in why those things are, because those are real struggles, right, in our life. Why do things happen this way? Let's look at Romans 8 and 28 to 31, maybe. Got it? Jason, thank you.
And we know that for those who love God, all things work together for good. For those who are called according to his purpose, for those whom he foreknew, he also predestined to be conformed to the image of his Son, in order that he might be the firstborn among many brothers. And those whom he predestined, he also called. And those whom he called, he also justified. And those whom he justified, he also glorified.
One more verse, please.
Yeah, 31. That's when what then shall we say to these things? Is God for us? Who can be against us? If God is for us, who can be against us?
There you go. So, knowing that God is the one who is working all things for his good, for his glory, we know that as his children, that is for our good. And he says that it's for our good, for those who love him and are called. And that if God is for us, who can be against us? Right? And that's that's what I'm hearing here in Hebrews 13:6. The Lord is my helper, I shall not fear. If God is on my side, what do I have to fear? I should be content. I should have peace. I should have joy. I shouldn't have fear. I shouldn't have anxiety. I shouldn't have the things that I do have sometimes and that I struggle with not being content or with being anxious for things. God's word's telling me I don't need to do that, because why? What's the ultimate answer here? Why don't we need to feel that way and think that way?
Because it's for his glory and it really doesn't matter. I mean, sort of in the, I'm saying the end game is, if it's for his glory, that means that he's got it, it is exactly how he wants it, because he's glorifying himself. And we are glorifying him.
Definitely.
So there'd be no...
And as it ends here, though, in 13:5, and it says, what can man do to me? The Lord is my helper. So then what does that mean? Our contentment shouldn't come from anything except him. That's it. That our contentment and everything that we should find our identity in, everything that we should be, grounded in, is him. And everything else will be worked out. Right? Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these other things will be added unto you. John Piper put it this way: God is most glorified in us when we are most satisfied in him. Listen to that. Read that again. That's a pretty big deal. I thought that was very well spoken. And so, sorry, go ahead. But just finding it in him.
Yeah, I think the enemy wants to strip us of that on the daily, my wife's always just like trying to get me back, because I will be going through the day, even when we're hanging out or, with my family and stuff, and our little family. I'm constantly, my mind is elsewhere. The world is demanding me, and it doesn't need to. I can be completely content in that moment, but I'm thinking about
Excuse me.
that are out of my control, things that I don't need to worry about because of this verse. How simple it is. Like, he's got it all figured out. Why am I trying to like go through it all in my head and not even be present, in this moment? So yeah, like when we are most satisfied in him, I can be most satisfied in him in that moment and really enjoy it. But my mind is somewhere else.
Yeah, totally can relate.
So
Totally relate. Yeah. So our contentment then comes from God and from God alone. And if we truly understand that and truly live that, he's enough. That's really what it comes down to. He alone is enough.
But in this side from heaven, everything, fear, I mean, we're not totally controlled, we're not totally safe from all that. We got, you get fear from your wife, if something happens in her side of the family, and now that fear, as a man of God, it's gonna fall on you a little bit, because now you got another thing going on, that it's serious, so now you have to deal with your wife's feelings, or you gotta take charge. I try not to take charge instantly. I try to analyze whatever is happening and how can I pull it out from the Bible. What can I do that will glorify God? It's hard once in a while.
Good. So, when I look at these verses here back in our text, keep your life free from the love of money. Be content with what you have. Kind of like last week, I think Jordan, you brought something up last week that we had good conversation around. Kind of saying, how do you reconcile these two things? Because doesn't the Bible say this and seems to say this? And so when it says that, I think we can maybe take it too far to say be content with what you have, and maybe take it to a life of minimalism, or kind of giving away everything we have, and is that what the Bible is calling me to do? So does this mean that we aren't supposed to try to better our circumstance, and better the situation that we find ourselves in? How should this affect our ambition, to do something like that, and to provide for our family, and do the things that we talked about even a little bit last week? Is this condoning people who choose to be lazy in life, saying like, oh, I should just be content with what I have? See what I mean? Oh, I'm content. I don't need anything, and I'm just not going to do anything. And
I think the Big Lebowski had it figured out.
what's that?
I think the dude had it figured out. The Big Lebowski. Okay.
But by doing better, it enables you to help others.
Yes.
Which is amazing, that's
Don't
that's what real joy is in my life, if I can help someone else with the extra that I have.
Don't leave people out while you're doing it, like you said. Oh, should I have less? I shouldn't be. Not the lazy guy. The lazy guy that's not too good. But I'm saying if you're gonna minimize something, but always have that open hand. How can I help my neighbor, or if somebody at church? I don't really need this, but don't go out there and give it all away, and then you're like, whoa, I don't have nothing to eat. I'm an example. At the same time that the whole thing is what we're talking about is being, brotherly love, and what's the other word? Hospitality, right? So, you have to, I tell my wife every day, we're blessed, and I'm so happy that we have to give somehow, some way, glorify God, but giving is good, man. I like to give.
Yep, for sure.
Enjoy giving.
But the best thing to give away is the thing that you prize the most. That's the best. The best thing you've got, if you give that to someone, that's the best. You can't beat that. That's like probably awesome. That's my favourite.
Oh, so if somebody needs a tool, don't give them the rusty one, just give them the one
Give
you
the
can
best
buy.
one. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Stainless steel, okay,
That's
here.
tough, man.
You mean I got to give the chocolate frosted from the dozen donuts to Jay? Like, dude, the chocolate frosted's the best.
I
Like,
just get the worst one and it makes me feel better.
Shouldn't I be more like, well, God provided me this stainless one, I should probably keep it in the back of the toolbox.
Don't worry, Ace Hardware has plenty of it. You're gonna
Those
have
are stainless, bro. No, I'm
But
just
the worst
kidding.
thing is when you do it, you've got that great chisel, whatever it is, and now you're a slave to that chisel, because you wouldn't even
Yeah.
wow,
well,
that's-
I'm using it
it's
like
like
him
an
so
idol,
much,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
I've got one wrapped in.
oh, we're talking about coveting again. Here we
Yeah,
go.
but you do.
Right.
That's why I like to give it away, then you don't covet it. It's got,
Yeah.
right.
It doesn't have power over you.
Yeah,
Which
don't
goes-
do that, don't do that.
Which goes back again to our motives, right? And to the heart of the matter. Yeah, that's right.
They'll put all the extra bits on it. I'm really coveting it now. It's good.
Yep.
I get it.
So let's go look at a few more scriptures about this. Let's go to 1 Timothy 6. 1 Timothy 6. And Scott, could you get that one, man, please? 1 Timothy 6, 9 to 12. We looked at it some last week, or we at least talked about it some last week. Yeah, no worries.
What's it by?
1 Timothy, go, you got 5 T's in a row. Go Galatians, Ephesians, Philippians, Colossians. Then you got Thessalonians, then Timothy, then Titus.
Page 2548.
2163.
You get to the 2000s. That's a good one, man. That's very good.
Good?
Okay. But those who desire to be rich fall into temptation, into a snare, into many senseless and harmful desires that plunge people into ruin and destruction. For the love of money is a root of all kinds of evils. It is through this craving that some have wandered away from the faith and pierced themselves with many pangs.
Well, you could be here for months on this one.
Hold on, 11 and 12 too.
Oh.
But as for you, O man
But
of
you're
God,
right.
flee these things, pursue righteousness, godliness, faith, love, steadfastness, gentleness. Fight the good fight of the faith. Take hold of the eternal life to which you were called, and about which you made the good confession in the presence of many witnesses.
Thank you. Okay, so we talked about that, the love of money, root of all kinds of evils, right? So he's speaking there to say, even speaks of, those who have wealth, there's temptation, that's a snare, it's a trap. So to guard against these things, because you can, I think in that opportunity, in that situation, you're prone to rely on yourself, right? To rely on your wealth and to find contentment in those things. And that's not what you're to find contentment in and peace in, and all the things that we've been talking about. And so guard ourselves against those, flee from these things and pursue righteousness, and the things that are listed there. Good. Let's go to Matthew chapter 6. Matthew chapter 6. Anybody wants to read that for us? We're going to do verses 19 to 21.
Do not lay up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moth and rust destroy, and where thieves break in and steal. But lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust destroys, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also.
Good. Yeah, and so we already spoke about that one. And
Is that where they said that the Florida Keys is in the Bible, where it says rust?
oh yeah,
That was the salt of the earth.
yeah, definitely the salt and the rust, right? Yeah, good.
Timothy 3:3.
Yeah, in 1 Timothy 3:3, there's just a list there speaking about, it's actually qualifications for elders, for overseers, and being above reproach, and a husband of one wife, sober-minded, self-controlled, respectable, hospitable. But I want you to listen to the list. Able to teach, not a drunkard, not violent, but gentle, not quarrelsome, and it says not a lover of money. So there's a prerequisite there, or a qualification, and I wouldn't say that it's just for pastors, because we're reading this from Hebrews, applicable to all of us, yes? To say, don't be a lover of money.
And it says, I thought it always said it was the root of evil, was the root of many evils.
Yeah, some
So
say
there-
all evils,
All
some
evils,
versions.
so
Yeah.
So it's not one, it's,
Yeah,
this
many.
could beat you.
Oh,
And
yeah.
And the word snare, the snare is such a,
Yep,
you know,
trap.
yes it is.
Yep, that's right.
Does it say that in like other versions or something? Is that just a misquote?
What's that?
People always say, yeah, of all evil. You know what I mean? You always hear that saying.
Of evil, I always heard of evil, people always say, oh.
Money's the root of all evil. You always say.
Yeah.
Well, no, that's just people
That's just the phrase on some.
It does not say, that's the point, is it doesn't say money is the root of many evils. It says the
The
love
love.
of money is the root of many
Love.
evils.
Right.
And that's what we're talking about right now. That's the distinguishing mark, is that no, it's not the money. We have money every day. I mean, most of us are making money out of their jobs every day, and we're spending money to care for our families and do the things that we're called to do. That's not problematic. That's not evil. The evil is what we've been speaking to the last 2 weeks: the idolatrous nature, the covetousness, the wrong prioritization, the wrong motives that we have, and setting that as the goal. And as our ambition is being driven by the love of money. No, it's the love of money that is the problem. Or, like we said, the love of anything money could buy, the love of any other thing, right? Go back to the Ten Commandments. Those first four are in particular about our relationship to God. And he talks about having no other gods before me, making no graven images, right? Thou shalt not covet is in there, but certainly, that's what it's speaking to, is not putting anything above God and not desiring anything more than him. Because, like what we just spoke of tonight, the goal is him. The reward is him. Everything, the contentment and everything comes from him. Yeah.
If you go to Matthew 6:24, it says you cannot serve two masters.
Right.
So if your money becomes an idolatry, then it becomes a master, and you can't serve two masters.
That's right. It is the Lord. Right. That is now your Lord. Yep. And you will serve it and hate the other, he says. That's right. Yeah.
So what does it mean to be a bishop?
That's just talking about leaders in the church, pastors.
Within the church?
Yes.
So like just a regular Joe who wants to.
Yeah.
But-
Hey, he said the regular Joe, not the irregular Joe.
No, bishop is another word for preacher, for.
But like, I mean, does that qualify as anyone who wants to, basically witness to another?
Well,
No, that would be a disciple.
so there's definitely distinguishing marks here. So it doesn't mean that you get off the hook from the list that is there. The list there is a good list for.
So when you're at the bar and you're like a little sloshed and you want to start witnessing to the guy next to you, that doesn't count?
Yeah, I would say that's probably not the best way to be an ambassador of the gospel.
I think I've been in both seats, to be quite honest.
We all have.
But no, just short answer for your question there is, he speaks there, as does Titus, chapter 1. That's Paul giving the qualifications for those who are called to be pastors. The word bishop, overseer, pastor, shepherd, those are all the same office. There's 3 different words used in the original language, and all those are interchangeable to mean what we would call pastor. Some might call it elder, some will call it bishop, just depending on different denominations or whatnot. But it's talking about the pastors of the church. They're called to meet these qualifications in order to be qualified to serve in that office in the church. But however, like I said before, that doesn't mean that that's just for the pastors, that these are good things to be qualifying for. Every single one of us, as we read that list, should be married to one wife, being sober-minded. Those are good things for every single one, follower
He's
of
just
Christ.
warning out, it's just calling out to if you're gonna be a pastor, you definitely gotta have these characters.
Yeah. Well, because being apt to teach, able to teach, there's a lot that's in there too, and so that would certainly be a giftedness from the Lord that should be recognizable. So there's many.
Strive to be more like Christ.
Yeah.
Christ was.
But being a
Amen.
disciple is a little bit of everything in there, right? I mean, being a disciple, you're gonna witness to people. You could teach somebody that doesn't know anything about God, correct?
Yeah. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, everybody needs to do these things, but in that context, he's speaking to the leaders of the church. Those who are going to lead the church and be pastors need to make sure that they fit these qualifications. And if they don't, then you're not qualified.
Right, and that also opens our eyes to if somebody does not fall under those qualifications, the body,
Yes.
that can say, hey, wait a minute, we got a little problem here,
Good.
Right? I mean, that's,
But you also held to a higher standard too.
Yeah.
That's right.
Except that it's a,
Well, that's right.
it's a.
Yep, James makes that clear for us. Yeah, that's right. But again, I mean, most all the things that you see in all the lists. I mean, it's applicable for believers. You know,
Yeah.
yeah. We're all called to be sober-minded. We're all called, to be above reproach. You know, all those things. We're all called to those things for sure. But I think, in closing, we got 2 minutes. We're doing great. As we wrap up here tonight, just thinking of the things we talked about. Oh, we said this last week. Oh, we said this the week before, and that contrast of the world says this and God's word says this. We've really seen, the author of Hebrews here emphasizing, some major areas of significance in the life of a believer. And that's why we've been unpacking this, because there's a lot of application here. You're talking about Christian contentment, right? Big deal in your life. You're talking about Christian marriage. Big deal in your life. Big deal in the world we live in,
Yes.
right? Christian love. Big deal in your life. Big deals here. And then actually when we continue on next week, look at verse 7. It says, remember your leaders. And so we're going to get into actually more of what you're asking, what you're talking about, especially when we get down to verse 17. It says, obey your leaders and submit to them, for they're keeping watch over your souls as those who will give an account, speaking to what Pete was talking about. So, we're going to talk a little bit about that too and what that looks like. So there's definitely major teaching points here in these verses. And so I pray that, God is using those in our lives. And so, what do you guys got on that? What do you guys think more about, tonight for some application for us as we leave here tonight? What are your thoughts?
Sorry, this is off topic, but not really. I just think that list can be like it can be overwhelming to some followers, and it can almost keep you in a place of, oh well, I'm not qualified to spread the word, the good news.
Yeah, but
I use
Well,
that
that's-
a lot.
Well, that's a good
Yeah,
point.
I use that
It's a-
thing,
it's a
I'll
good
come
point,
and go, well, I'm not
but-
qualified enough to do that, so I
Yeah.
just keep quiet.
Hold on one second.
Instead of spreading the gospel, I'll just be quiet, because,
Well,
well, that's,
I think there's a
you know.
but there's a point of, what was that? Sky was saying something?
I was just saying there's a difference in that and to be a leader though.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So I think that's maybe where we can just talk a little bit more to say, if you look at that, you look at that list and you maybe feel like you said, oh, I'm
Not worthy.
inadequate or not worthy to be a follower, to be, ambassador. Remember, we're all called to be ambassadors for Christ. We're all called to the ministry of reconciliation. If we're in Christ, then the Great Commission is for us, right? To go and to preach the gospel, to tell people the truth of the gospel, and to share the truth with them. Every single believer is called to do that. And in that, some of these things in this list, like I said, being gentle, not loving money, being respectable, being hospitable. These are things that every believer should be striving for, right? That's what we're talking about tonight with the love of money. And contentment. So these are definitely things that we need to be working on, all of us as believers. So, and bro, there's many, like Pete was saying, we often feel inadequate. And I would say to you, so many of the surveys we've done here in our church in particular, but so many, surveys and national surveys and seeing things for years that I've seen is how there's a lack of confidence in the church in sharing the gospel. That most people feel inadequate when it comes to sharing the gospel with other people.
'Cause it's easy to come here and talk to you guys.
Yeah, sure.
But what good is that doing for? I mean, it's good. We're,
Yeah, that's right.
I'm sharpening
But
mine.
What about the guy? Yeah, the guy who you see every day who doesn't know Christ. And
Yes.
he's hungry and he's hurting, but you're. So it's just like it's hard to.
Yeah, but
And so remember, in doing that though, we're not going to be perfect. You don't have to be perfect. So remember, going back to what Brian was saying earlier about God is the one who does the work, and it's the truth of the gospel that saves people. And so the Holy Spirit is going to empower you in your conversations. You're going to find that if you're open to a conversation with people, I would say to you, you're going to find more times than not, if not every time, that you're going to be just fine in articulating the things that you believe. If you truly believe them, and don't get me wrong, we need to grow better at that. every one of us, every single person here who's a believer should be able to articulate the gospel from, start to finish. Maybe not every single little nuance that maybe, Pastor Brian would give, to somebody, but it needs to be, you understand it's the death, burial, resurrection. This is what it looked like, and you can spell it out, and that's all you need to do. And it's God who chooses to give the increase if he does. And so I would just encourage you, man, to say, believe me, dude, we all feel the same way you feel, right? I see a lot of nods going on. Yeah.
It's also trying to live the Christian life and trying to, not miserably, but trying to live a Christian life and show that you live.
And people see you, yeah.
Without doing all the things that I do wrong. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's sort of being kind and understanding and stuff like that.
And so don't be, I just wanted to say, in context of 1 Timothy 3, don't be discouraged when you look at that list, because we're all going to struggle with it. But this is a list with a higher bar that we're talking about, a higher bar of accountability that comes with for being pastors. And so he's literally saying to Timothy, calling Timothy to be a pastor and saying, when you set up pastors in other places, these are the type of men you need to look for.
You're young, Jordan. You still got a long way to go. We all got a long way to go. I'm saying you're young. Confidence will come. And the hardest thing that I finally I'm very comfortable with is how you present it, how you bring it out in a conversation. You could be talking to somebody and you bring up the word God and they don't even want to talk to you. They'll get up and leave.
Yeah.
So it's all about the delivery. No, it's true. It's all about the delivery. I work on people, and I just, like Pete said, you have to show it. You live a Christian life, and people won't. You shouldn't have to tell people that you're Christian for people to notice it. It's hard. It's hard. Don't get me wrong, but it's.
And like even this weekend, I was a bad representation of Christ, because I have an issue with just wanting to fit in. Like wanting to and then make people feel comfortable.
Sure.
But at least you
got. I'll fall into whoever I'm around. I will morph into their personality.
We're all chameleons.
Yeah, man. I'm a freaking chameleon, and yeah.
Well, that's definitely.
But that's good that you
Hey,
notice that.
it's good that you're sharing that, and I'm
amazing.
saying that it's.
We all got that, man.
Yeah, because that's the thing, though. We do struggle and go through that, but as we need to, though, mature, and as Paul says, grow up and be men, meaning strong in maturity and being mature in Christ. To say, Paul tells us in Romans 12 there again, not to conform to the things of this world. So I think of my past and living in exactly what you're talking about, and I used to be that chameleon and kind of I used to have one foot in the world and one foot in the church and dipping my toes back and forth and doing that, and I'm on the fence here, and that is not the life that we're called to, and so I encourage you by saying, man, I was so there, and I think every one of us, looking at Pete nod and Shannon nod, and it's always going to be a struggle in our flesh, but as we grow in maturity, I think you're going to find that being a believer, you're going to be equipped with the tools you need to be strong, in those situations, and to not conform into the ways, Paul says, put off the old self, put on the new. That when one is in Christ, 2 Corinthians 5:17, anyone who is in Christ is a new creation, right? That you are new, and that old things are passing away, and all things are becoming new because you're being changed to be more like Christ. So, but it is a process. Yeah, it's a process, man. Yeah. So, thanks for sharing, man. Yeah, the transparency is good. That's what we need, guys, and we need help in this walk, and that's what we're here to help one another do.
Yeah, I'm grateful for the wisdom in this room and all the feedback.
Praise the Lord, man.
This is what we learn, man. This is where we get tougher and stronger, and once in a while, it's like what happened to this weekend. You might see that people maybe once a month or once a year. Once in a while, you don't just come out and I'm saying you take time. It's like if you're hunting, you gotta go and set your not your snare, but you set your cross, you set your altar. You go slowly, and people the right time. And not everybody's gonna want to hear it. You're gonna get more no's than yes, and it's
Have the spirit of
Yeah, but that's good that you have that appetite, that, that
I
asking.
just see the hurt, man. And it's
Amen.
just,
Yeah.
it's thick.
Writing, something about writing, dividing the word, right, or something in there.
Good.
Amen, brother.
Well, Lord help us, and to be better witnesses as we go out there. Yeah. Give us confidence, give us boldness. Scott, would you close for us? Thank you.
Father God, thank you so much for this time that you give us, Lord, and thank you for putting it on the hearts of our pastors to help to lead us and help us to navigate through your gospels and through your Bible, Lord, and just thank you so much for this Bible and this truth that you've given us to live our lives by, and to just give us somewhere to go to just see that you've covered it all. It's all in here, Lord, and it just boggles our minds, Lord, because we're just so surrounded by the world and by the deceiver, the world that the deceiver has set up here for us. And Lord, just help us to continue to strive to seek your will and to see your will in everything we do, Lord. And if we have that opportunity, Lord, to be bold and to share what we've learned, and to spread the good news and the joy of the gospel, and Lord, just to do a good job for you while we're here on this side of heaven. We just thank you for all the provision you give us, all the love you give us every day, and just thank you for just being sufficient for us, and thank you for telling us and teaching us that you provide for us everything that we need, and that we don't need to strive for all that other stuff that's out there in the world, that you will give us those things from time to time, Lord, but we don't have to have it. We just need you. Thank you for our families, and thank you for looking after us, keeping us safe and healthy. In your Son Jesus' name I pray.
Amen.